Bhaskar Tetarve from Greater Noida. We have Sumer Shashank Pandey.
Yeah.
Sumer Shashank Pandey.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. We have Sandesh Gupta. Sandesh, which place you are from?
I'm from Mumbai.
You are from Mumbai. Okay. And we have Mohammad Abdullah Jamal Malik, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Mohammad Abdullah Jamal Malik from Patna. Okay. So we shall start with Bhaskar Tetarve. You can start. You will start with your intro, brief intro, and then you will come to your topic, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, please. You can start.
Okay, so my name is Bhaskar Tetarve. Yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm just setting my time. Yes, please.
Sure. All right. So my name is Bhaskar Tetarve. I reside in Greater Noida. I currently work in this company called Cloudtail as a senior vendor manager, and I've been living in Bangalore. Been working from home so far, and before that, I have done an MBA from IIM Lucknow. I'll start. Sure. So I'll start with the body of my speech. So yeah. So I'm going to be speaking in favor of taxation of high farm incomes. I'll start first with the tax to GDP ratio that India has currently, which stands at a 17.5% from the 2019 data. And that is pretty much below par compared to countries of similar GDPs. And if you look at the individual GDP tax to GDP ratio, it comes out to around 4%, which is much, much lower than what is there out there for any other country. And when you consider the fact that India is barely 4.2% of the population paying taxes, that indicates that there is something wrong with the way the tax structure is working right now, with barely a 4.2% of the population being made to pay for the overall country. And if you look at the fiscal deficits also, both the states and the national fiscal deficits are overshot by whatever the estimates are currently. The state's fiscal deficit is going to be around 4.8% against an estimate of a 2.8%. And it indicates a certain requirement to bring out better tax revenues. And right from the 1950s, where B.R. Ambedkar was talking about the taxation, from the time to 1972, when Tax Reforms Committee came into place, 1985 fiscal policy, Kelkar Committee in 2015, every one of them have suggested that agriculture is an avenue to get taxes. It doesn't have to be all the farmers, but you find some way of taxing the high income farmers there. The main reason why it doesn't work so far is because 70% of our population resides in the rural areas, who are directly or indirectly dependent on agriculture, which stands as a major vote bank for the political parties who will not really take that kind of an action. But Economics 101 suggests that a fundamental principle of direct taxation is equity in application, both vertically and horizontally. And if both of them are not being followed in this case, there is seriously something wrong in the way that it is being worked on. And the top claimants of tax exemption right now, even those are 18 out of those top 20 are corporates right now. So if you look at that, they are 100 crore businesses of say Monsanto, Kaveri Seeds, McLeod Russells. All of them are more than 100 crore of businesses. And we are saying that those guys are not going to be taxed, and we still are going to tax this 4.2% of the population. And the kind of exemptions which have so far worked on,
30 seconds.
And the kind of exemptions that have worked on so far at this moment encourages money laundering. And this has been proven by the Kelkar Committee in 2015. And then an RTI reply revealed in 2011-12 revealed that the agricultural income claim was 22 times of the GDP of the country in that time, which is a serious concern for us. So considering both the tax GDP ratio and all of these points, I would say that we really need this. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
ठीक है. So मैं जब 30 seconds बचे होंगे, then I'll raise my voice once, and then I'll point my finger when time is over. Okay. So after that you have to take maximum 10 to 15 seconds में आपको close करना है सबको. ठीक है ना? Okay. So try to be within time. So now I'll go to another participant, Sumer. Sumer, you are ready?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Sumer Pandey. Currently, I'm a student. I'm studying in class 11 science. I'm from Ahmedabad, Gujarat. And in this debate, I support taxation of high farm income. First of all, I'd like to clarify what does high mean over here. High means an annual agricultural income of above 50 lakhs. This is what I would consider as high agricultural income. A census in India conducted by the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations shows that farmers having farmland from less than 1 hectare to 4 hectares constitute 93% of the total farmers in India, whereas the remaining 7% have farmland of more than 4 hectares, maybe 4 to 20 hectares or XYZ, right? So this is the 7% that I'm targeting over here. In 2019, according to a court order, there were more than 4,000 cases of agricultural income more than rupees 1 crore. And this is from that 7%. So as this 7% earn a lot of money from agriculture, I don't think that they deserve any kind of tax exemption on their agricultural income. There's also completely different perspective that we need to talk about. A report of TARC, Tax Administration and Reform Commission in 2014, and even the Kelkar Committee report in 2002, as Bhaskar suggested, have clearly stated that tax exemption provided on agricultural income is being misused by non-agriculturalists as a tool of tax evasion and money laundering. A report of CAG audit in 2019 also found that 23% of these tax exemptions were allotted without verification of supporting documents such as land records, crop information, or any proof of agricultural income. So in these 23% cases, there's a huge possibility of non-agricultural income being shown as agricultural income and easily getting away without paying the taxes. So in this manner, a complete racket operates, which launders thousands of crores of agricultural income, right? Another example provided in the same audit shows that there was a huge increase in the agricultural income in the year 2011. In 2010, the total agricultural income was 87,000. And in 2011, it rose to around 20 crores, right? Can you imagine? That is 2 and then 8 zeros. And then again in 2013, the agri income fell to 83,000 crores. And very surprisingly, in the same year, in 2011, the Swiss bank officially announced that in total 9,000 crore rupees had been withdrawn from Indian bank accounts in the Swiss bank. So we are smart enough to understand where these 9,000 crore rupees went. So this is just one example that has come to our notice of tax evasion. God knows how much more money has been laundered in this way over the years. So I provided all these statistics just to make it very clear that putting a cap on tax exemption will keep small farmers out of the purview of yeah. So putting a cap on tax exemption will keep small farmers out of the purview of taxation. At the same time, it will also close a huge route for black money to come in. So yeah, with a lot of statistics and a lot of logical reasoning, this was my opening speech. Thank you.
Okay, good. Well within time. We'll go to Abdullah. Abdullah, you are ready?
Yes,
please.
So I'm Abdullah Jamal. I'm Mr. Chairman, sir. I'm in favor that there should be no taxation for the farmers. And let me start by saying this. A couple of months ago, farmers were put with water cannons. They braved that. They were put through tear gas. They braved that also. Then they were blockade put in Haryana. Still, they braved that. And for the last 2.5 months or 3 months now, outside Delhi, they are sitting under this chilling cold. Just why? Because they want a simple law which was brought in by the government to be taken back. Now, why? Because the farmers fear that whatever income they get, their income will reduce. Now, just imagine what will be the plight of farmers if they are taxed. It will be like putting Lagan the way Britishers used to do, and the same was shown in the film Lagan. That is what is going to happen. Now, more than this, let me put it in the form of certain logics. First of all, there are low farm holdings, low income farmers. They have large rural families. You have talked about, means they are suffering from a kind of disguised unemployment, where a large number of people are involved. Where only 2 people are required, there are 5 people. I personally, my forefathers, means I have land in a village. Now, out of that 5 acres of land, every year after selling all the crop, we get around 35,000 rupees. Half the farmer takes, half we get. Now, just imagine if you are a farmer and if you are having your own land, then then also you are getting only 70,000 rupees in a year, which is less than 6,000 rupees per month. Now imagine if you are a landless farmer, you are getting only 2.5 to 3,000 rupees per month. Now, if you put taxation on them, just imagine the plight of them. Then we are pathetic with our tax system in India. Let's come and talk about the ITRs. We have ITR 1, ITR 2. There are so much of complications. And this taxation has come after so much of refinement. For so many years, there have been refinement done for this taxation, but still we are suffering. GST was introduced many years back, but still GST is very poorly being executed. Means there are a lot of loopholes, right? So there are farmers who are largely dependent on food grains. Now, how will they get insurance, right? What will be the way in which they will be taxed? That is the $1 billion question. How will you tax them? How will you identify a high income farmer or a low income farmer, right? Okay. So I would like to conclude by saying this. Yesterday was a cancelled check. Tomorrow is a promissory note. Today is the only cash we have. Spend it wisely by saying no to taxes on farm income. Thank you so much.
Okay. Now we'll move to Sandesh. Sandesh, you are ready? Sandesh?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, please. See, there is a network problem, I think, at your end. If it is so, then you can switch off your video.
Am I audible?
Yes, you switch off your video. I think you will get better network.
Good evening, honorable moderator and my following members. Today, I'll be speaking on the motion. Yes. Okay, sir. So am I audible now?
Yes, please.
Good evening, honorable moderator and my following members. Today, I'll be speaking on the motion. Yes, high farm income should be taxed. Farm income should be taxed or not is politically a sensitive issue with various stakeholders' interest involved in it. However, for the very first time, this issue was acknowledged by the K.N. Raj Committee report, where it observed the necessity of taxing farmers with high income. I'll convince you on why prosperous farmers should be taxed on the grounds of empirical evidences provided by government data, facts, and reports. First come first. If the non-farmers with certain prescribed income are taxed and well-to-do farmers go untaxed, it challenges the very own fundamental rights of Indian Constitution. That is Article number 14, 15, and 16, which talks about equality. Secondly, the Kelkar Task Force report of 2002 estimated that 95% of the farmers were below the tax threshold. Now. Although the ratio of farmers who will be taxed are in minority, but the amount of procurement they produce are well above the majority if seen it in the equity terms. As observed by the Kelkar Task Force, that 40% of the farmers are not small farmers, but yes, they are below the threshold of the taxation. I quote Dr. B.R. Ambedkar here, where 80 years ago, he said he was in favor of taxing agricultural income. He was of the view that tax should be levied on tax-paying capacity or income of the taxpayer. Now, it is beneficial for the farmers too, as farmers which can be used to obtain adequate loans from the formal credit channels. Source Economic Survey 2019 and 20's chapter on Thalinomics. Members, let's see a case study of money laundering here. No taxes on agriculture encourages laundering of non-agricultural income as agricultural income. Example, in 2014 and 15, a company made a profit of 215 crores, but with claiming the agriculture.
Sandesh, you switch off your video.
Income.
You are not audible. Sandesh, you are not audible. We almost lost you.
No tax.
Hello.
Last.
Sandesh, you are not audible.
GDP only when our audible right now? Okay.
Yes, now you're audible.
So am I audible now?
Yes.
Is it- So sorry, sir. There's some network issues in my
Sandesh, you do one thing. Sandesh, you do one thing.
Hello.
Sandesh,
Sir,
you do one thing.
I would be concluding on my last points. So, lastly, I would want to. Yes, sir.
I am saying, if you
Yes,
want,
sir.
you find a better place for network. Okay, and till then, I am continuing with other participants. Okay, then I'll give you 1 minute once again.
Sure, sir.
Okay.
Sure, sir. Sure. I'm so sorry. It is deeply regret.
No
Deeply,
issues.
sir,
It
for
happens.
the inconvenience
It's okay.
caused.
So with other participants, I'm going to the next section actually. Okay. We'll listen to we'll listen to Sandesh later. So same cycle, I'm starting again. I'll invite Bhaskar. Bhaskar, you have 3 minutes. First 1 minute, you have to put your overview. You have just one opponent, Abdullah. You can make your viewpoint, and then you have to leave time for Abdullah to ask a question.
Hey, Vivek, you're not audible. I couldn't hear that.
Hello.
Yeah, I couldn't hear what you just said.
I am saying you have 3 minutes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so I am saying you have 3 minutes. Out of that, 1 minute you have to make your viewpoint, probably on whatever have said Abdullah has said, or maybe your overall view, and then Abdullah may ask a question from you.
I'll begin with the points which were raised around the complicated tax system that we have right now and the difficulty in implementation of that. My question is more on saying, are we principally aligned on saying this should be done? Because if you look at a principal level, there are so many committees which are prescribing that this is something that needs to be done to maintain equity in application. So that is my first point. Second is the condition of saying, say, Britishers took Lagan. Fact is that when it was originally introduced around 1885, the idea of tax was actually removed by Britishers simply because of the pressures of the land revenue that was usually coming at that time. So land revenue was more than 10%. There was tax over and above that. They couldn't continue with that. But if you can think about it, that status quo has been taken into British India, independent India as well. And even after that, with a land revenue of less than 1%, we are still not considering the potential agricultural tax that can be implied. So again, I have the similar question on that, saying, is that valid? And then finally, about the current situation of farmers getting into the current protest system, I agree that there is that plight of farmers. But again, would you ever cut these farmers, especially for, say, that 18 of the top 20 corporates which are getting agricultural exemption? So those, Abdullah. Moderator,
So-
sir, after this for 2 minutes, there is cross examination, correct?
Yes, yes.
In between, I could not hear. So the last
Yeah.
30 seconds or so.
So you do one thing, Abdullah. If you have some question from Bhaskar, you can ask a question, and
Yes.
whatever you have, yes, and you can
So-
put your counter argument. Basically, here you have to ask a question actually.
Okay, so my question with you is, you mentioned that 4.2% of the population is paying tax in India, so there should be tax on farmers. Now, how do you justify this when you say that? See, there are so many. Yes, you want to say something, Vivek?
No.
Okay. Who is not paying tax, right? If we are talking about income tax, right? Farm income is a different kind of a taxation. That's a totally different thing. Now, if you have to tax, right? So there are many other things where taxation can be done. There are NPAs, you have to get it. There are a lot of public sector companies which is not performing well. Why only farmers? If you have to increase the taxation, the tax which is being received by the government of India.
Can I come in here?
No, this is
Can I come in here, Vivek?
This is for Bhaskar actually.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Please continue.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, so my question here was more on the principal part of it, because as Abdullah said, one was saying that one was about the implementation part of it. The second was on the plight of the farmer, where we are actually talking about the high income farmers, not all the farmers here. We are barely talking about 4% of the farmers that contribute to 20% of the agricultural income. And then again, we are talking about a principal idea, saying on a principal level, does this sound right or not, even though the implementation can be difficult. And then I talked about the Britishers part of it, where I said that the Lagan system actually was not there after 1885. It was abolished. And the premise for that was because of the land revenue, which used to be more than 10% at that time, which is not there anymore, which is less than 1% right now in state revenue. So again, my concern was more on that point, saying that principally are we aligned? And second is we are talking about high farm incomes here. And third is that the British issue that we are talking about was not actually there. It was more with the land revenue at that time.
Okay, so we shall not invite counter argument. We shall go to Sumer.
Yeah.
Before that, Sandesh, are you connected? Sandesh, are you connected well?
Yes, sir.
You had some points left in first section?
Yes, sir. I guess I was not able to convince all my points.
Okay, so if you are well connected now, I can allow you 1 minute to complete your points.
Yes, sir, sure.
Yes, please.
So, starting from here, so I would like to quote Dr. B.R. Ambedkar here, where 80 years ago he said that he was in favor of taxing agricultural income. He was of the view that tax should be levied on tax paying capacity or income of the taxpayer. He also mentioned at that time that taxes should be high for the high income, who has the high income, and less for the less, who earns less income. Now it is beneficial for the farmers as well, as they get as the income which they pay that gets verified, and in returns they provide credibility to the farmers, which can be used to obtain adequate loans from the formal credit channels. And the source for it is Economic Surveys 2019-20's chapter on Thalinomics. Members, let's see a case study of money laundering here, how it is done. No taxes on agriculture encourages laundering of non-agricultural income as agricultural income. Example, in 2014-15, a company made profit of 215 crore rupees, but claiming the agricultural income exemption, it paid no tax. Lastly, we can develop our GDP only when our agriculture income is taxed, fulfilling the ambitious target India dreams of $5 trillion economy. I would like to conclude with the fact that if the small farmer is a reality, so also are the big agricultural farmers with their luxury cars and rich industrialists who own farmlands. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, good points. So now I'll go to Sumer.
Yeah. So, okay, when I heard Bhaskar and again Mr. Abdullah, I found that, as Bhaskar said, he's more on the principle side of it and Abdullah is more on the implementation side of it. So I'd like to cover both in a brief way. You see, principally, what we're saying or what I'm standing for is correct, that we should tax high farm income. And that is the reason I mentioned that what does high mean here? Because high is not, it's a vague term, right? It can vary from person to person, from country to country. So that's why I said around 50 lakh, right? So when we say 50 lakhs, let me just name some of the richest farmers of India. Pramod Gautam, just a second, just give me a minute. I'll quote a bit of them. Pramod Gautam is there. Then Sachin Kale is there. Harish Dhandev is there. A lot of farmers are there who are earning more than 10 crore rupees per annum just from agriculture, right? And they are not paying taxes. And this is just, I'm talking about the individual farmers, right? The companies are different. And to give another example, Supriya Sule, the daughter of Sharad Pawar, right? She is the richest farmer in India. The property on just her child's name is of 6 crore rupees, and all the money that she earns, she credits it to agricultural income. So that is one thing that we have to understand, that high agricultural income is also a fact, as well as low agricultural income is also a fact. And that's why I very clearly mentioned that I'm talking about the 7% only. And as Sandesh quoted, right, B.R. Ambedkar said that taxes should be levied only on income basis, and that is what I agree with 100%. When there is a high income family or high income person and a low income family, it does not matter how they procure their income, right? Regardless of whether it is agriculture, whether it is a government employee, whether it is a private company, that does not matter. If they are capable of paying the tax, they must pay the tax. And just let me give me one more example. I may override the time limit, but I just want to quote one example. In 2015, a retired income tax officer, Mr. Vijay Sharma, if I'm correct, obtained an RTI, and then he went to the Patna High Court to request them to look into the matter and ask the tax authorities to see that when there are so many farmers who such in the country, how can such a high income be obtained from agriculture? As I mentioned, that 20 crores in the year 2013, right? So, and then after that, what happened is that the income tax department discredited its own details that it provided, the data that it provided, by saying that it was a data entry error. And then they stopped responding to this to Mr. Vijay Sharma's subsequent RTI. So this raises a question, this raises a concern about the attitude and the intentions of the government as well as the income tax department, right? You are inaudible, Vivek.
So in a position, you just have one participant. That's why I am leaving up to him whether he wants a question or he wants to pass on. Okay. So Abdullah, if you want to ask a question, or if you want to pass on.
I have a question for Sumer.
Okay.
So Sumer and even Bhaskar did talk about it. So you're talking about inefficiency or loopholes which is being used by the farmers and which is being that is the reason why money laundering is happening, right? Now, money laundering is not only happening here, right? Money laundering is happening in every sector. Now, whose job is this to find whether the money laundering is happening or not? This is the government jobs. This is not farmers' mistake. So why should they be taxed? Because money laundering is happening and because others are misusing that. Now, there are loopholes. Yeah. All taxation has loopholes. These people who do money laundering, they find loopholes in each and every sector that they work, right? So how do you feel that this will be justified for those who are honest farmers or those who are earning very low income, or even if they are earning high income, right? If they are not doing money laundering.
Let me answer these many questions. Let me answer these many questions.
Sorry to interrupt, Vivek sir.
Yes,
Vivek sir.
Yes, Sadesh.
Sir, I just wanted to ask, as even I mentioned this point, which Abdullah opposed.
This question is to Sumer, I think.
Yeah.
So Sandesh, I'll come to you. Don't worry.
Yes.
Okay. You will be given an opportunity.
Okay. Yeah. So Mr. Abdullah, can you just briefly repeat your question? I actually forgot that. Just say a word about it.
Inefficiency or loopholes.
Okay. Yeah. I got it. Okay. Yeah. So you see, today in this debate, we are talking about the agricultural part of the money laundering. I agree that money laundering is happening in every sector and everyone can find loopholes in that. But say in this 7%, not all the 7% can find loopholes in that. Out of the 7%, maybe 2% or maybe 5% will find the loopholes and they will continue money laundering. But the rest 2% or the rest 3%, they will still pay the tax, right? And as you said that the farmers who are earning low income, I've clearly mentioned that 50 lakh rupees per annum, right? So 50 lakh rupees per annum comes to more than 4 lakh rupees per month. And that is the 7% that I'm talking about, right? So I agree that everyone will, the person who wants to find loopholes or do illegal activities will definitely find it, but not everyone can find it. And talking about other sectors, in this debate, we are just talking about agriculture. And that is the reason we mentioned only agriculture. If we were talking about money laundering on a larger scale, I would have mentioned all the sectors as well.
Okay, well taken. So Abdullah, now your turn in this round. And any two persons of this panel can ask a question to you. Okay. So I will prefer Sandesh. Sandesh, you be ready with your question.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, Abdullah, your turn.
Okay. Now again, farmers, most of the farmers, right? Majority of them, they are in rural areas, and many of them are not very highly educated, or they don't have access to tax consultants or CAs, right? Now they will find it very difficult to file that because they themselves will not be able to do, most probably, right? So again, I'll come to the implementation part, that it will be extremely difficult, very close to impossible. You'll have to spend years in planning that kind of taxation system. Second, babus, the income tax officers, you know, the kind of coercive steps they take, the way they harass people in the name of income tax. Now, if the same thing starts happening to these innocent farmers, they will be helpless. And who is there to go and help them? Just understand their plight. Just understand the human side of it. More than numbers, understand the human side of it. Where will they go? Who will help them, right? And how they are going to file that tax. So in principle, as you are saying, Bhaskar, it might look very rosy, but in terms of implementation, it is very close to impossible. It means you will have to spend years in terms of planning this. Until now, we have not even started.
So we have Sumer and Sandesh both having questions from you. So I'll prefer Sandesh to come first because Sandesh is waiting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Abdullah, coming back to you, what you said that money laundering should not be the sole reason for taxing farmers, as it's not done by the farmers but others too. My dear friend, I would like to say that if someone is doing something bad, that does not mean that even I should do the same thing, right? As our father of nation once quoted that an eye for an eye will make the whole world blind. Secondly, you quoted that it's the government's responsibility if the laundering is been happening in the place. So yes, Abdullah, that's why we are here to debate, discuss, and dissent. Yes, it is the government's responsibility. I agree to your fact, and I state that yes, that's why the high income should be taxed so that the laundering could be prevented. So that's what I
Okay, so you want to counter, Abdullah?
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't understand what is the question, because see, the counter from my side would be that, see, I'm not talking about that money laundering in one way it is justified. I have never told that it is justified, right? Money laundering, what I have told is happening in each and every sector. So when we are targeting farmers, why should we target farmers in terms of favoring? Means I find this argument as a very weak argument when you say that since money laundering is happening, farmers should be taxed. Now, for me, this is a very weak argument, right? So that is what I meant.
Okay,
I hope you understood.
Okay, I'll come to Sandesh in his viewpoint turn. Sumer.
Yeah. Should I come in?
Yes.
Okay, so right, again we'll come to that thing that money laundering is happening in a lot of sectors. Yes, it is happening, but agriculture is primarily a very big loophole. The reason being there is no other sector which has been given this exemption of tax, right? So agriculture is one sector where this is a huge problem and a lot of money laundering is happening. And on the implementation part of it, I'd like to say that yes, what you said is true, that it will take years and years and maybe even decades to implement this, but passing a law or an act will at least start something good, right? It will start the inception, right? So, you know, if we pass this if we pass a law about the capping of tax exemption on agricultural income, either we should mention it in the act as well itself, or we can pass another bill with that it is completely the government's responsibility to make sure that they come to know about the income groups, the different income groups, whom to tax, whom not to tax. And I think it is fair enough that you know, we'll come to know about who is a big farmer or who is earning a lot of money from agriculture and who is not, right? So when you see when you see people committing suicide, when you see farmers committing suicide, and you see that they have just 1 acre of land, you cannot say that they are rich. But at the same time, as Sandesh quoted, a company earned a profit of rupees 215 crores from agriculture, right? So now I don't think in any way it is justified that we do not take tax on that thing.
Okay, so Abdullah, any counter?
My counter would be that I believe, means I'm not sure how the companies are involved, because in most of the states, right, except Bihar, where APMC is not there. Only when APMC is not there, then the companies can go and directly get into, like in Bihar, we have a startup called Dehat. They have raised a lot of funds and they are doing good, right? So you can say, but I'm not sure which company you are referring. If you can tell me when you get time, that which company you are referring.
It is not mentioned in the report. That's why I don't know. Right?
Yeah, so that is why it is a question mark. That is why I'm raising this question, because I doubt this, that there is any company which has done like this. An individual can do it, but a company doing this, I don't think it would have happened.
Okay,
Okay,
ठीक है.
okay.
So
Yeah,
going to
now-
Sandesh. We'll go to Sandesh. Sandesh, your viewpoint.
So Abdullah said that the laundering is the only reason we are making for our debates like farmer income should be taxed. Abdullah, I would like to say that me and my colleagues have stated 10 of the points that why high farm income should be taxed. Another thing, now well, as we have discussed all the possible dimensions in our debate, I would like to mention the international the dimension to this debate and the foreign relations dimensions which is impacting India. Whenever we go to World Trade Organization, whenever we see them, they say that why you are providing subsidies to your farmers when your when your farmers, well-to-do farmers are gaining good farm incomes. That is not in favor with the other countries and the concept of globalization and open free trade market. So that's the reason. That's another reason why the high farmers income, farmers with farm income should be taxed. And this is the things which I wanted to say you. Another thing, adding another dimension to it, that is the environment dimension. The well-to-do farmers who in the western Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, and Punjab majorly do the stubble burning thing as they are stubble burning things, and still they are not regulated even if they are having good amount of income. Like there are other few ways to tackle the problem of stubble burning, that is pusa pills, which has been launched by an Delhi's institute. So they are even not doing that, so it is impacting our environment too. And my dear friends, everyone who know the contemporary issues in India, that that the stubble burning is one of the major reasons why Delhi every year faces the very poor quality of air, the smog happens in Delhi, etc. So I would like to further add two more dimensions, as Abdullah said that we are solely debating on the laundering thing.
Okay, so Abdullah, you may ask a question or you can escape because you are the sole
I have a very strong observation on Sandesh. Sandesh, what you told about the international organization, that itself, actually, India from 2010 to 2020 has taken 40 lakh crores of loan from IMF. And that is the reason why they don't ask for repayment. IMF asks you to reopen your to liberalize your market, right? That is the reason why these farm laws have come, and that is why the government is not ready to go back, even though this kind of protest, large scale protest is happening. And the same reason comes. So the same reason is why the government is interested, and they have a lot of people who are talking about taxation on farmer. So this is because the burden, and I'm not talking about any particular party. From 2010, there was another political party which was in power, which has taken loan from IMF. From 2014, there is another political party. So this is basically because of that. Now we have taken loan, and we are going to punish farmers because that is where the potential is. Now, Sandesh, coming to question, you have talked about equality, and you have given, you have quoted it from the Constitution of India, right? How will you define equality for poor and for rich? A person who is earning 1 crore a month or 100 crore a month, and a person who is earning 1,000 rupees a month, how will you define equality for them?
So, as Abdullah mentioned, that how would I define equality? Dr. V.R. Ambedkar, while stating the Constitution, he clearly mentioned that in Article 14, the state shall not deny to any person equality. Now, listen, quote, before the law or the law protection of the laws with the territory of India. Sir, interpreting the Article 15 and 16, which also states that state may do the positive discrimination for equality, for the likes and for not for unlikes. That is how the question
Now
can
you
be
have quoted it
justified,
fully.
Mr.
Yes.
Abdullah.
Correct. Now you have quoted it fully. Yes.
Thank you.
So
Okay, so we are done with this section, and we shall move to the next section, closing round, for everyone's concluding remark, right? So again, in the same cycle, we'll invite first Bhaskar. Bhaskar, you can give your concluding remark.
Sure. So I'll again reiterate the same point, saying that while the implementation seems hard, principally it is the correct move to make, prudent by so many committees with our esteemed panel members. Every one of them has given all of those committees which suggest the same point, right? the problem for us seems more political rather than something which should or should not be done. And while I do agree to some points of Abdullah, where he says that money laundering should not be the reason why you've taxed farmers, but the extent of the problem, for example, the discussion around the 215 crore income company, the fact that in the 2011 to 12 total income given by agricultural income, that is coming to almost 22% of India's GDP. That shows that there is something very distorted about the way it is being done right now. And that is the extent of the problem that we are talking about. And if you do a very simple back of the envelope calculation, those 4% of the farmers, which are contributing to 20% of the agricultural income, at 30% tax will give you 25,000 crore of additional tax income, which increases the overall taxes by 5%. So I would say that it still works for us. And just because there is a difference between saying that a poor rich that Abdullah is talking about, that 100 crore rich is actually the ceiling, is actually a Monsanto, which is right now at that level of agricultural income getting tax exemption. So that rich that Abdullah is talking about of 100 crore is that. So that is something that needs to be taxed, right? You don't just show this in a way that you are not being equal in application and then not even taxing that rich that should ideally be taxed. So that's it from my end.
Okay, Sumail.
Yeah. So I'd like to mention one thing very, very firmly, that as Abdullah mentioned, right, the farmers who are earning honestly and the farmers who are doing money laundering, you see here, it does not matter whether a farmer is doing money laundering or a person is doing money laundering or he's earning by honest means. If the income earned by that person from agriculture exceeds the limit, that is maybe, for example, 50 lakhs, he has to pay the tax irrespective of the means by which he procured them, right? So putting a cap on high agriculture income of over rupees 50 lakh will definitely help close one route for black money, and it will also help the country increase its tax collection base. And at the same time, it will not add the tax burden on small farmers, which will help both the farmers and the nation reach new heights of growth and prosperity. And another thing that I would like to add here is that how to identify is another big question which was raised by Abdullah. You see, that is the responsibility of the government, and the government is capable of doing that. The strength of the government employees is huge, is completely huge, right? And that's what we pay the taxes for. So if you doubt the government, if you doubt the stats given by the CAG, if you doubt the stats given by the Kelkar committee, you cannot trust anything, right? So somewhere we have to start. So if we bring this law, right, something will at least start. Instead of just sitting like this, even after say 10 years, something will happen. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Abdullah.
Yes, I would like to conclude by saying that farm income should not be taxed, must not be taxed. Coming to the high income farmers, again, my question is, how will you define high farm income? The farm income comes from agri products, and agri products prices vary. Now, it varies in India itself. There are hundreds of prices of pulses at different places. There are hundreds of prices of rice at different places. There are different prices of paddy at different places. Now, how will you monetize that? Then, and if you monetize the grains or agri products, what will be the tax accounting system you will be following? So the challenge is not only there. The challenge is how to apply this tax accounting system. Okay. That's $1 million question. Then comes coming to the government, right? We have seen government doing so much of experiment and coming up with such a big thing called GST. When I was in college and doing MBA, for me, GST was a dream. But the way GST was brought in, the way it was implemented, it has been pathetic. Lakhs of businesses have been closed because of poor implementation. Nowadays, if you ask a businessman, they say that I have to keep 10% of my operating income just for paying GST, because they have to pay GST in advance. The moment invoice